The champagne bottle sat on the marble kitchen counter, condensation pooling around its base. Simone stared at it, her rolling suitcase still by the door from her 3-day business trip to Chicago. Brandon stood across from her, his expensive suit jacket draped over a bar stool, his expression carefully neutral. "I think we should open our marriage," he said as casually as if he were suggesting a new restaurant. The words didn't register at first. Simone had walked into their downtown loft expecting the usual welcome home kiss, maybe takeout from their favorite Thai place. Instead, she got champagne and what sounded like a business proposal. "What did you say?" Her voice came out steady, which surprised her. Brandon picked up the champagne bottle, working the cork with his thumbs. "I've been thinking about this for a while. We've been together for 8 years, married for 5. We're successful, comfortable. But I think we're missing something." The cork popped. He poured 2 glasses, the bubbles rising in golden streams. Simone watched, her mind working to process his words while her body remained frozen. "Missing something," she repeated. "Freedom." He slid a glass toward her. "We can keep everything we have, the loft, our social circle, our financial stability. But we should also have the freedom to explore connections with other people. No sneaking around, no lies. Just honest, open arrangement." Simone's fingers closed around the champagne flute. The crystal felt cool and solid, real in a moment that seemed increasingly surreal. "You want to sleep with other people. I want us both to have that option." Brandon took a sip, watching her over the rim. "I know this might seem sudden. How long have you been thinking about this?" The question came out sharper than she intended. He hesitated, and in that pause, Simone saw the truth before he spoke it. "I've been seeing someone for about 6 months, Brandon said. "Her name is Whitney. She's a junior associate at the firm. Nothing serious, but I realized I don't want to give up what we have, and I also don't want to lie to you anymore." The champagne glass should have shattered. Simone's grip tightened enough that she felt the stem flex, but the crystal held. 6 months. While she worked 60-hour weeks building her career as a business consultant. While she planned their anniversary dinner. While she believed in their marriage. "You've been cheating on me for 6 months and now you want permission to continue." "I wouldn't call it cheating if we both agree." "But we didn't both agree." Simone set the glass down with precise control. "You made that decision alone. For 6 months. Brandon's jaw tightened. "I'm trying to be honest now. I could have kept lying, but I respect you too much for that." The laugh that escaped her throat sounded foreign. "You respect me?" "I do. That's why I'm proposing this instead of just continuing behind your back. Other couples do this successfully. We're both adults. We can handle it." Simone studied her husband's face. The face she'd woken up next to for 5 years. The man she'd supported through law school, celebrated with at his firm's partnership announcement, defended to her mother who worried he was too ambitious. She looked for remorse and found only expectation that she would be reasonable. "This Whitney," Simone said quietly. "Does she know you're married?" "Of course. I told you I'm being honest about this." "Does she know you're asking me for an open marriage, or does she think I already agreed to one?" Brandon's silence answered the question. Simone picked up her suitcase. Her hand didn't shake. Her voice didn't crack. "I need to think about this." "Take your time." Brandon relaxed visibly, clearly believing her consideration meant acceptance. "I know it's a lot to process, but I really think this could work for us. We're compatible in so many ways. This just adds another dimension." She walked to their bedroom, her bedroom she corrected mentally, and closed the door. Through the wood, she heard Brandon's phone buzz, heard his low laugh as he typed a response. Probably telling Whitney that his wife was coming around. Simone sat on the edge of their king-sized bed and pulled out her phone. Her hands remained steady as she typed a message to Naomi, her best friend since college and one of the sharpest corporate attorneys in the city. "Need to talk. Urgent. Can you meet tomorrow morning?" The response came within seconds. 8 a.m. my office. "You okay?" "I will be," Simone typed back. She looked around the bedroom she'd decorated, at the life she'd built with a man who'd been lying to her for half a year. The champagne sat untouched in the kitchen. Brandon hummed while scrolling through his phone, probably texting his mistress about his generous offer to his wife. Simone's reflection stared back at her from the dresser mirror. Same dark brown skin, same intelligent eyes, same determination that had built her career from nothing. The woman in the mirror looked calm, composed. But behind that calm, gears were already turning. Brandon wanted an open marriage? He'd get honesty all right. Just not the kind he expected. She had no intention of sharing her husband. but she had every intention of making sure he regretted asking. Naomi's office occupied the corner suite on the 42nd floor, with floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking the city's financial district. Simone sat in one of the leather chairs facing her friend's desk, hands wrapped around a coffee mug she hadn't touched. 6 months, Naomi said, her voice tight with controlled anger. That absolute piece of... I need information, not sympathy. Simone met her friend's eyes. Can you recommend a private investigator? Naomi's expression shifted from outrage to something calculating. Jordan Hayes, former FBI, now runs a private firm. Discreet, thorough, and expensive. Money isn't an issue. Simone pulled out her phone. Can you make the introduction? Already texting. Naomi's fingers flew across her screen. What's your plan? I don't know yet. But I'm not making any decisions without facts. Simone finally sipped her coffee. He said they could keep everything, the loft, our social life, our finances. Like I'm supposed to be grateful he's letting me stay in the life I helped build. The loft you bought with your inheritance. That he convinced me to put in both our names for tax purposes. Simone's laugh held no humor. I funded his law school. I supported him through the bar exam. I networked to help him make partner. And he thanks you by screwing a junior associate. Naomi's phone buzzed. Jordan can meet you this afternoon. 2 o'clock. Simone nodded. I told Brandon I needed time to think. He actually looked relieved. He thinks you're considering it. Good. Let him think that. Simone stood, smoothing her skirt. I have a client meeting at 10. I'll handle Jordan at 2. Can we meet for dinner tonight? My place 7. I'll order from that Italian place you like. Naomi came around her desk, pulling Simone into a fierce hug. We're going to bury him. Legally, Simone said against her friend's shoulder. Of course legally. I'm an attorney. Naomi pulled back, gripping Simone's shoulders. But thoroughly. Jordan Hayes's office was nothing like Naomi's corporate showcase. It occupied a converted warehouse in the arts district, all exposed brick and industrial fixtures. Jordan herself was a tall black woman in her 40s, with silver threading through her short natural hair and sharp eyes that missed nothing. Naomi said you need information on your husband. Jordan gestured to a chair across from her desk, which was covered in file folders and what looked like surveillance equipment. How much do you know so far? He's been having an affair for 6 months with a woman named Whitney who works at his law firm. He asked me for an open marriage last night. Simone kept her voice level. I want to know everything else he's hiding. Jordan pulled out a legal pad. Full name? Brandon Theodore Mitchell. Partner at Whitmore, Stevens & Associates. Specializes in corporate law. And the other woman? Whitney. I don't know her last name. Junior associate at the same firm. Jordan made notes. What are you looking for specifically? Financial irregularities. Other affairs. Anything that gives me leverage. Simone leaned forward. My husband is a corporate lawyer. He doesn't do anything without calculating the benefit. This open marriage request is strategic. You think he's planning to divorce you. I think he's planning something. I want to know what before he springs it on me. Jordan studied her for a long moment. This will cost around $10,000 for a comprehensive investigation. Maybe more if I need to bring in specialists for financial forensics. That's fine. Most people hesitate. I'm not most people. Simone pulled out her checkbook. How soon can you start? I already started. Jordan turned her computer screen to show a social media profile. A young white woman with blonde hair and a wide smile smiled at the camera. Whitney Carson, 26, graduated from State University 3 years ago. She's been at Whitmore Stevens for 18 months. Simone stared at the photo. This was the woman her husband had been seeing. She looked young, eager. Probably flattered by a partner's attention. There's more. Jordan pulled up another image, this one from what looked like a surveillance photo. Brandon and Whitney at an outdoor cafe, his hand covering hers on the table. This was taken 2 weeks ago. They meet every Tuesday and Thursday for lunch. He tells his assistant he has client meetings. How do you already have this? Naomi gave me the basics before you arrived. I made some calls. Jordan closed the photos. Your husband isn't as discreet as he thinks. Several people at his firm know about the affair. There's gossip. Simone's throat tightened. People knew. While she smiled through firm dinners and holiday parties, people knew her husband was cheating. What else? I need access to your financial records. Bank statements, investment accounts, anything joint. Jordan handed her a list. Also, I need you to keep acting normal. Don't change your behavior. Don't let him know you're investigating. He thinks I'm considering his proposal. Perfect. Let him think that. Meanwhile, I'll find out what he's really planning. Jordan's expression softened slightly. I know this is hard. But knowledge is power. The more we know, the better we can protect you. Simone took the list, scanning the items. How long? Give me 2 weeks for a preliminary report. Comprehensive could take a month. I'll have these documents to you by tomorrow. That evening, Simone sat on Naomi's couch, a glass of wine in her hand and her shoes kicked off. Her friend had ordered enough food for 4 people, but Simone barely touched the pasta on her plate. Jordan seems competent, she said. She's the best. Naomi refilled Simone's wine. Found out my ex was hiding assets in his mother's name. Got me an extra 100,000 in the settlement. I don't even know what I'm looking for. Just a feeling that there's more. Trust your instincts. They got you this far in business. Simone's phone buzzed. A text from Brandon, working late. Don't wait up. She showed it to Naomi, who snorted. Working late. Right. Probably with Whitney. Simone set the phone down. You know what bothers me most? He thinks I'm stupid. He really believes I'll just accept this. Men like Brandon think they're smarter than everyone else. He's a partner at a corporate law firm. He makes strategic decisions. He probably calculated exactly how to present this to minimize resistance. He underestimated me. They always do. Naomi raised her glass. To underestimation. Simone clinked her glass against her friend's. And to making them regret it. Her phone buzzed again. This time it was an email notification. Simone glanced at the screen and froze. What? Naomi leaned over. The email was from Jordan, sent to Simone's personal account. Preliminary finding. Joint savings account shows transfers of $50,000 over the past 4 months to an account in the Cayman Islands. Registered to a shell corporation. Digging deeper. Simone read it twice. $50,000. Money she'd helped earn transferred without her knowledge or consent. He's stealing from you, Naomi said quietly. He's preparing. Simone set down her wine glass. This isn't about an open marriage. This is about getting everything ready before he divorces me. Then we get ready too. Naomi grabbed her laptop. We're going to need a divorce attorney. Someone aggressive. Someone who eats corporate lawyers for breakfast. Do you know someone? Naomi's smile was sharp. Rebecca Monroe. She destroyed my ex and she'll destroy Brandon. Simone looked at the email again. $50,000. 6 months of lies. An affair with a woman barely out of law school. Her husband thought he was so clever, laying groundwork while asking for an open marriage to keep her compliant. But Brandon had made one critical mistake. He'd assumed Simone would react emotionally instead of strategically. He'd forgotten that she'd built her career by seeing 3 steps ahead, by anticipating problems and solving them before they became crises. She'd learned from the best strategist she knew, herself. Set up the meeting with Rebecca, Simone said. Tomorrow if possible. Done. Naomi was already typing. What are you going to tell Brandon? That I'm still thinking about it? That I need time to adjust to the idea. Simone stood, gathering her things. And while he thinks I'm adjusting, we're going to find out exactly what he's planning. Then we're going to take it all away from him. She drove home through downtown traffic, her mind clear and focused. The loft's lights were still off when she arrived. Brandon was probably still with Whitney, celebrating his successful manipulation of his naive wife. Simone walked through the darkened rooms, seeing them with new eyes. The furniture she'd selected. The art she'd chosen. The life she'd built. Brandon thought he could keep it all while betraying her. He was wrong. She opened her laptop and began compiling the financial documents Jordan requested. Bank statements, investment records, property deeds. The loft's title showed her name first because she'd bought it with her inheritance. Her family money had funded Brandon's education, his career, their life. And now he was trying to steal it. Simone worked until midnight, organizing files, making lists, preparing for war. When Brandon finally came home, smelling of perfume and wine, she pretended to be asleep. Let him think he'd won. Let him believe she was just another woman who'd accept his terms. In 24 hours, she'd gone from shocked wife to strategic opponent. And Brandon had no idea what was coming. Rebecca Monroe's office made Naomi's look modest. Located in the tallest building downtown, it screamed success from every detail. The original artwork, the custom furniture, the skyline view that stretched to the horizon. Rebecca herself was a petite white woman in her 50s with steel-gray hair cut and a sharp bob and eyes that assessed Simone with clinical precision. "Naomi sent me your financial documents," Rebecca said without preamble. "Your husband is an idiot." Despite everything, Simone almost smiled. "Why do you say that?" "Because he left a trail. The Cayman account, the transfers, even the timing, it all points to premeditated asset concealment." Rebecca turned her computer screen. "See these dates? Each transfer happens right after your bonus payments. He's systematically moving your money." Simone studied the spreadsheet. Red highlights marked transfers totaling $73,000 over 6 months. All from the joint account that held her consulting bonuses. "I didn't notice," she admitted. "You weren't looking." He counted on that. Rebecca pulled up another document. "But here's the interesting part. Your name is on 60% of your marital assets because of your initial inheritance and continued higher earnings. The loft, the investment accounts, even his partnership buy-in came from your family money. We built everything together. Legally, you built most of it. He contributed, yes, but the foundation is yours." Rebecca leaned back. "Which means if he divorces you without a favorable settlement, he loses most of his comfortable lifestyle. So the open marriage is a delaying tactic. Keep you happy and compliant while he moves more assets offshore. Then divorce you and claim the hidden money doesn't exist. You get the loft and some savings, he gets to keep his stolen nest egg." Simone felt her jaw tighten. "Can we prove it?" "Jordan's working on that. But I need to ask, do you want to save this marriage?" "No." The answer came without hesitation. Rebecca nodded approvingly. "Good. Because I don't do reconciliation. I do protection and justice." She pulled out a legal pad. "Here's my recommendation. We file for legal separation immediately, freeze all joint accounts, and start discovery on his financial misconduct. While that's happening, you maintain the pretense that you're considering his open marriage proposal. Won't filing for separation tip him off? Not if we're smart about it. We file quietly, serve him at work through a process server who looks like a courier. By the time he realizes what happened, your money is protected." Simone thought about Brandon at home, probably texting Whitney, confident in his control of the situation. "How soon can we move? I can have papers ready by tomorrow. But first I need to know everything. The affair, the finances, anything he might use against you." For the next 2 hours, Simone laid out her marriage. The early years when Brandon was charming and ambitious. How he'd convinced her to fund his law school education as an investment in our future. The gradual shift as he became more successful, his dismissiveness of her career, his increasing absences. And finally, the champagne and the proposal that shattered any remaining illusions. Rebecca took notes with quick, efficient movements. "Has he ever been violent?" "No." "Substance abuse?" "Wine with dinner." "Nothing excessive." "Other affairs before this one?" Simone paused. "I don't know. I trusted him." "Jordan will find out." Rebecca set down her pen. "Here's what's going to happen. We file for separation. We freeze the accounts. And then we wait for him to make mistakes. Angry people make mistakes, and I guarantee he's going to be furious when he realizes you're not the pushover he thought." "What kind of mistakes?" "Threatening communications. Attempts to access frozen accounts. Maybe even trying to hide more assets." Rebecca's smile was cold. "And we'll document everything. By the time we're done, he won't just lose the marriage. He'll lose his reputation." That evening, Simone came home to find Brandon cooking dinner. Music played from the wireless speakers, something jazz and smooth. He'd changed into casual clothes and looked relaxed, happy. "I thought we could have a nice dinner," he said, not looking up from the stove. "Talk about things." "Things?" "The arrangement. I know I sprung it on you suddenly. I want to make sure you're comfortable with everything." Simone set down her bag, studying her husband. He really thought this would work. He really believed she'd accept sharing him in exchange for keeping her comfortable life. "I've been thinking about it," she said carefully. Brandon turned, his expression eager. "And?" "I have questions. About how it would work. Boundaries, expectations." His shoulders relaxed. "Of course. That's smart. We should establish clear parameters." They sat at the dining table, the one Simone had found at an estate sale and had refinished. Brandon poured wine, served the pasta he'd made, and launched into what sounded like a prepared speech about ethical non-monogamy and expanding their relationship paradigm. Simone listened, making appropriate sounds, asking questions that made her seem engaged. all while thinking about the legal separation papers being prepared in Rebecca's office. About Jordan digging through Brandon's lies. About the $73,000 he'd stolen. The key is honesty, Brandon said, reaching across to take her hand. No secrets between us. The irony was so thick Simone almost laughed. Instead, she squeezed his hand and smiled. No secrets. Her phone buzzed. A text from Jordan, need to talk. Tomorrow morning. Important. Simone excused herself to the bathroom and called Jordan. I found something, Jordan said without greeting. Whitney Carson thinks you've known about the affair from the beginning. Brandon told her you two had an open marriage agreement for the past year. Simone's grip on the phone tightened. What? He's been lying to her too. Telling her you're fine with it, that you have your own relationships, that your marriage is modern and progressive. She has no idea she's the other woman in a traditional, closed marriage. Why would he lie to her? Because if she knew the truth she might feel guilty. Might break it off. This way, she thinks she's part of some enlightened arrangement instead of an affair. Jordan paused. There's more. I found evidence he's been sabotaging your career. What do you mean? Remember that job offer from Morrison Consulting last year? The one that never materialized. Simone did remember. She'd interviewed for a senior position, felt the meeting went well, then never heard back. Yes. Brandon called the hiring manager. Told him you were dealing with mental health issues and wouldn't be reliable. He tanked your opportunity. The bathroom walls seemed to close in. Simone sat on the edge of the tub, her mind reeling. He sabotaged my career. There are at least 2 other instances I've found. Networking contacts who stopped returning your calls after Brandon spoke with them. A speaking engagement that was mysteriously canceled. Jordan's voice hardened. He's been systematically limiting your professional options while positioning himself as the stable, successful spouse. Why? Control. If you're dependent on him financially, you're less likely to leave. Less likely to question his behavior. Jordan paused. Simone, this isn't just an affair. This is a pattern of manipulation and control. He's been setting this up for months, maybe longer. Simone stared at her reflection in the bathroom mirror. Same face, same eyes. But the woman looking back at her was different from the one who'd walked into her loft 3 days ago. That woman had trusted her husband. This woman knew better. What do you recommend? Rebecca needs to know about the career sabotage. It demonstrates a pattern of malicious behavior. And we need to warn Whitney. No. The word came out sharp. Simone. I don't owe Whitney anything. If she wants to be with a married man who lies to everyone, that's her choice. Simone stood, straightening her shoulders. But I want documentation of everything Brandon told her. Every lie. We'll use it later. Understood. I'll have a full report ready by Friday. Simone ended the call and returned to the dining room. Brandon had cleared the dishes and was setting up a movie, something romantic and predictable. Everything okay? He asked. Fine. Just work. She settled on the couch next to him, letting him put his arm around her shoulders. On screen, a couple fell in love, overcame obstacles, chose each other. Brandon kissed the top of her head, probably thinking his plan was working perfectly. He had no idea that in 2 days, a process server would hand him separation papers at his office. No idea that his financial crimes were being documented. No idea that the wife he'd underestimated was 3 steps ahead. Simone watched the movie, her mind calculating. Career sabotage. Financial theft. Systematic lies to both his wife and his mistress. Brandon had built his betrayal carefully, piece by piece. She'd dismantle it the same way. Friday morning arrived with clear skies and perfect autumn weather. Simone dressed carefully in her navy suit, the one that made her look professional and formidable. Today Brandon would be served. She was already at her office when her phone buzzed with a text from Rebecca. Papers delivered 9:47 a.m. Confirmed receipt. Simone set down her coffee, imagining the scene. Brandon in his corner office, probably reviewing contracts or preparing for a client meeting. A courier arriving with what looked like a routine package. The moment of confusion, then shock as he read the legal separation petition. Her phone rang at 9:52. What the hell is this? Brandon's voice was barely controlled fury. Legal separation papers, Simone said calmly. I thought the language was pretty clear. You can't be serious. I'm completely serious. Simone, we talked about this. You said you were thinking about the arrangement? I thought about it. I decided I don't share. She kept her voice level, professional. I also decided I don't stay married to men who steal from me. Silence. Then, I don't know what you're talking about. The Cayman account, Brandon. $73,000 transferred from our joint savings. Should I continue? I can explain. I'm sure you can. Explain it to the judge. Simone ended the call. The phone immediately rang again. She declined it, then blocked his number. Whatever Brandon needed to say, he could say through his attorney. Jordan's full report arrived that afternoon, delivered by courier to maintain confidentiality. Simone read it in her office with the door closed, her shock growing with each page. The affair with Whitney was just the latest. Jordan had found evidence of at least 2 previous affairs, both with women from Brandon's firm. The pattern was identical. Younger associates, secret meetings, promises of discretion. The financial crimes went deeper than the Cayman account. Brandon had been inflating expenses on joint credit cards, pocketing the difference when Simone reimbursed him. He'd taken out a line of credit in both their names without telling her, draining $30,000 for business expenses that Jordan couldn't verify. And the career sabotage was worse than Simone had imagined. Brandon had told multiple professional contacts that she was unstable, unreliable, difficult to work with. He'd deliberately intercepted emails about job opportunities, deleting them before she could see them. He'd even convinced her previous boss not to write a recommendation letter by claiming Simone had asked him not to. All to keep her dependent. All to maintain control. Simone's hands shook as she set down the report. This wasn't a marriage that had failed. This was a systematic campaign to trap and exploit her. Her office phone rang. Her assistant's voice came through. "Ms. Mitchell, there's a Whitney Carson here to see you. She doesn't have an appointment." Simone hesitated. She told Jordan she didn't want contact with Whitney. But curiosity won. "Send her in." Whitney Carson looked younger in person than in her photos. She wore a professional dress and minimal makeup, her blonde hair pulled back in a ponytail. Her eyes were red from crying. "Ms. Mitchell, I'm so sorry to bother you. How did you find my office?" "Google." Whitney twisted her hands together. "I need to talk to you. About Brandon." Simone gestured to the chair across from her desk. "Sit." Whitney perched on the edge of the chair, looking miserable. "I didn't know. You told me you two had an open marriage. That you both dated other people. That you were fine with it. When did he tell you this?" "When we first started seeing each other. He said you and he had evolved past traditional marriage. That you were both more enlightened than that." Whitney's voice cracked. "I believed him. I thought I was part of something progressive and honest." "When did you find out the truth?" "This morning. I saw him get the separation papers. He was furious, making calls saying you'd blindsided him. I asked what he meant and he..." Whitney wiped her eyes. "He said you were his traditional wife who wouldn't agree to his lifestyle choices. Nothing about an agreement. Nothing about openness." Simone studied the younger woman. She could be angry at Whitney, blame her for the affair. But Whitney was just another person Brandon had lied to and used. "What do you want from me?" Simone asked. "I want to apologize. I would never have gotten involved if I'd known he was lying about everything. I'm not that person." Whitney took a shaky breath. "And I wanted to warn you. He was on the phone with someone talking about the divorce. He said he'd make sure you got nothing. That he'd prove you were mentally unstable." Simone's expression didn't change, but internally she noted this information. More evidence of Brandon's malicious intent. "Thank you for telling me," she said. "I quit today. I can't work at the same firm as him." Whitney stood. "I know I don't deserve forgiveness. I just wanted you to know I'm sorry and that I didn't know." After Whitney left, Simone called Rebecca. "Brandon's planning to claim I'm mentally unstable," she said. "Let him try. We have documentation of his financial crimes, his affairs, his career sabotage. Any judge will see through that strategy." Rebecca paused. "But it's good to know. We'll get ahead of it. Maybe have you undergo a voluntary psychological evaluation to preempt any claims. Whatever it takes. How are you holding up?" Simone looked at Jordan's report, at the evidence of years of manipulation. "I'm angry. But I'm focused." "Good. Anger is useful if you channel it correctly." That weekend, while Brandon stayed at a hotel and sent increasingly desperate messages that Simone ignored, she met with Naomi and Rebecca to plan their strategy. "The judge will order mediation first," Rebecca explained, spreading documents across Naomi's dining table. "Standard procedure. But we're not settling. We take this to trial if necessary." "Why not settle if we can get a good deal?" Simone asked. "Because settlement is private. A trial is public record." Rebecca's smile was sharp. Brandon's a partner at a prestigious law firm. The last thing he wants is public testimony about his affairs, financial crimes, and sabotage of his wife's career. The threat of public exposure will get us everything we want. What do we want? Simone asked. Everything, Naomi said flatly. The loft, the investments, reimbursement for all money he stole, and his reputation in tatters. The Bar Association will also be interested in his forgery of financial documents, Rebecca added. I've documented at least 3 instances where he signed your name without authorization. That's both criminal and an ethics violation. Simone thought about the man she'd married, the charming law student who'd promised her partnership and family. That man had never existed. Or maybe he had, and this was who he'd always planned to become. Do it, she said. All of it. Her phone buzzed. Another message from Brandon, this one longer than the others. Simone, please. We can work this out. I made mistakes, but we can fix this. Don't throw away 8 years. She showed it to Rebecca, who photographed it. Added to evidence. Shows consciousness of guilt and attempt to manipulate. Simone blocked Brandon's number again. He'd find new ways to contact her. She knew him well enough to predict that. But she was done listening. That night, alone in the loft that would soon be hers alone legally, Simone poured a glass of wine and sat by the window overlooking the city. Lights stretched to the horizon, millions of lives being lived in those buildings. Somewhere out there, Brandon was probably with Whitney or maybe already looking for his next target. Somewhere he was telling himself he'd been wronged, that Simone was overreacting, that he deserved better. Let him think that. Let him underestimate her right up until the moment the judge ruled in her favor. Simone raised her glass to her reflection in the window. To new beginnings, she said softly. The city lights glittered like promises. 3 weeks later, Simone stood in the bathroom of the Meridian, the city's most exclusive restaurant, checking her appearance one final time. The black dress she'd chosen was elegant and professional, showing confidence without ostentation. Her makeup was perfect, her hair styled in loose waves. She looked successful, composed, and completely in control. Tonight would change everything. Through careful planning with Rebecca and Jordan, they'd orchestrated this dinner. Brandon's law firm was hosting a celebration for their newest partner. Whitney would be there, as would all the firm's senior partners. Brandon had assumed Simone wouldn't attend. Their separation was now 6 weeks old, and he'd stopped trying to contact her directly. He had no idea she'd been invited by Robert Whitmore himself, the firm's founding partner and one of Simone's former clients. She walked into the private dining room where 50 people mingled with cocktails. Crystal chandeliers cast warm light over the gathering. Brandon stood near the bar, laughing at something a colleague said. He looked relaxed, confident. Probably thought the worst was behind him. Whitney sat at a corner table, looking uncomfortable. She'd kept her word about quitting, but apparently had been convinced to attend this final firm event. Her eyes widened when she saw Simone. Robert Whitmore approached, his expression concerned. Simone, I'm so glad you came. I heard about the separation. I'm very sorry. Thank you, Robert. I appreciate your continued support. She'd done consulting work for Whitmore's personal business ventures, work Brandon knew nothing about. Their professional relationship existed independent of her marriage. Your presentation on our expansion strategy was excellent. I'm looking forward to working with you on the next phase. Robert lowered his voice. I should mention, Brandon doesn't know you're here. He told people you'd decline the invitation. I'm sure he did. Simone smiled. Would it be possible to say a few words during dinner? I have some information the partners should hear. Robert's expression grew cautious. What kind of information? The kind that affects the firm's reputation and ethical standing. He studied her face for a long moment, then nodded. After the main course. I'll introduce you. Dinner proceeded normally. Simone sat at the partners' table, making conversation about business and industry trends. Brandon, seated across the room, finally noticed her. His face went white then red. He started to stand, but his tablemate touched his arm and he sat back down. After the main course, Robert stood and tapped his glass. Before dessert, I'd like to invite Simone Mitchell to share some thoughts with us. The room quieted. Simone rose gracefully, moving to the small podium at the front of the room. She could feel Brandon's panic from across the room, could see him frantically texting on his phone under the table. Thank you, Robert. And thank you all for allowing me to speak. Simone's voice carried clearly through the room. I've worked with many of you over the years on various projects. You know me as a professional consultant, and I hope you found my work valuable. Murmurs of agreement. She had a good reputation with the firm, independent of Brandon. I'm here tonight because I believe in transparency and accountability, especially when it comes to matters that affect professional ethics and public trust. She turned slightly, making eye contact with Brandon. 6 weeks ago, my husband asked me for an open marriage. He claimed he wanted honesty between us. The room went completely silent. What he didn't mention was that he'd been having an affair for months. Or that he'd told his girlfriend, she gestured toward Whitney who had gone pale, that we already had an open marriage agreement. That I knew about their relationship and approved. Whitney's eyes filled with tears. He also didn't mention that he'd been systematically stealing from our joint accounts, moving money offshore to hide assets before divorcing me. Or that he'd been sabotaging my career opportunities to keep me financially dependent. Brandon stood abruptly. This is completely inappropriate. Sit down, Brandon, Robert said quietly. His voice held steel. Brandon sat. Simone continued, her voice calm and factual. I have documentation. She pulled a folder from her bag, of financial transfers totaling over $100,000 from joint accounts to offshore holdings. I have evidence of forged signatures on financial documents, including at least one client contract where Brandon signed my name without authorization. Several partners exchanged glances. Forging client documents was grounds for disbarment. I also have testimony from Whitney Carson confirming that Brandon lied to her about the nature of our marriage, making her an unwitting participant in marital infidelity. Whitney stood, her voice shaking. I didn't know. I would never have. He told me they had an agreement. That she knew. That she dated other people too. I know, Simone said gently. You're not the villain here, Whitney. You were lied to just like I was. She turned back to the partners. I'm bringing this to your attention because Brandon's behavior represents an ethical violation serious enough to warrant Bar Association review. He used firm resources to conduct his affair, meeting clients at locations where he actually met Whitney, billing personal expenses to client accounts. These are serious allegations, one of the senior partners said. Do you have proof? Simone handed the folder to Robert. Complete documentation. Financial records, photographs, communications. My private investigator was very thorough. Robert paged through the folder, his expression darkening. Brandon will need to discuss this in my office. First thing Monday morning. Brandon's face was scarlet. She's doing this out of spite. A divorce is messy, but that doesn't mean. The Cayman account is in your name alone, Simone interrupted, her voice cutting. The Shell Corporation has your signature. The forged documents match your handwriting. This isn't spite, Brandon. It's evidence. She turned back to the partners. I'm not asking you to take sides in a marriage dispute. I'm asking you to investigate potential ethics violations by one of your partners. What you do with that information is up to you. The room erupted in whispered conversations. Brandon sat frozen, probably calculating his options and finding them all bad. Whitney cried openly, her career dreams probably crumbling as she realized she'd been part of a massive scandal. Simone returned to her seat, her heart pounding but her expression serene. She'd done what she came to do. Robert remained standing. I think we should end the evening here. Brandon, my office Monday 9 a.m. Bring your attorney. People began gathering their things, the festive mood completely destroyed. Several partners approached Simone, expressing support and concern. Others avoided her eyes, probably worried about being associated with the scandal. Brandon tried to approach her, but Robert intercepted him. Don't make it worse. Whitney left the restaurant quickly, still crying. Simone felt a moment of sympathy for her. She'd been a pawn in Brandon's game, just like Simone had been. But unlike Simone, Whitney had chosen to leave as soon as she learned the truth. Outside, the night air was cool against Simone's flushed face. Naomi pulled up in her car within minutes. She'd been waiting nearby in case Simone needed quick exit. How'd it go? Naomi asked as Simone slid into the passenger seat. Perfect. Simone leaned back against the headrest. His partners now know everything. By Monday the whole firm will know. By next week, probably the whole legal community. You destroyed him. He destroyed himself. I just made sure everyone knew about it. Her phone buzzed. A text from Robert. Thank you for bringing this to our attention. The firm will conduct a full investigation. I'm sorry you had to go through this. Another text, this one from Jordan. I heard. Well played. And finally one from Rebecca. Brilliant. The Bar Association will love this. See you Monday to discuss next steps. Simone looked out the window at the city passing by. Somewhere behind them, Brandon was probably already calling attorneys, damage control experts, anyone who might help him salvage his reputation. But it was too late. The truth was out. His colleagues knew he was a liar, a cheat, and potentially a criminal. His career at one of the city's most prestigious firms was effectively over. And Simone had done it all without raising her voice, without making threats, without anything but the truth and strategic timing. Where to? Naomi asked. Home. Simone smiled. I want to sleep in my own bed tonight. The loft felt different when she walked in. Quieter, cleaner, more hers. Rebecca had already arranged for Brandon's belongings to be moved to storage. The space looked larger without his clutter, his presence. Simone changed into comfortable clothes and poured herself a glass of wine. Tomorrow there would be more battles. Monday the real legal war would begin. But tonight she'd won a major victory. She'd taken away the thing Brandon valued most, his reputation. Everything else would follow. Monday morning brought a flurry of activity. Simone woke to 17 emails, 12 text messages, and 3 voicemails. The story had leaked, not the details she'd shared at the dinner, but enough that Brandon's name was circulating in legal circles with words like ethics investigation and misconduct. Her phone rang at 7 a.m. Rebecca. The Bar Association wants to talk to you, Rebecca said without preamble. They saw the documentation you gave to Whitmore, Stevens. They're opening an official inquiry. That was fast. Forgery is serious. And when it involves client documents, they have to act. Rebecca paused. How are you feeling? Relieved. Simone walked to her window looking out at the city waking up. I thought I'd feel guilty. I don't. Good. Because today is going to be intense. Brandon's attorney filed an emergency motion claiming you defamed him and demanding financial penalties. On what grounds? That you made false allegations publicly. It's nonsense, but we need to respond. Court hearing is at 2 p.m. Simone checked her schedule. She had a client meeting at 10 that she couldn't miss. I'll be there. The client meeting went smoothly, a tech startup needing consultation on expansion strategy. The CEO mentioned hearing about some drama, but was professional enough not to pry. Simone delivered her presentation, secured the contract, and left with a check for $25,000. She was building something new, she realized. Not just rebuilding her career, but creating something better than what she'd had before. Without Brandon's sabotage, opportunities were opening up. The courthouse was busy at 2 p.m. Rebecca met her in the hallway, briefcase in hand and expression confident. Brandon's attorney is Paul Sterling. Good lawyer, aggressive, expensive. Can Brandon afford him? Probably borrowed money from family. Or maybe Whitney, Stevens is covering his legal fees until the investigation concludes. Rebecca checked her watch. We're arguing that truth is an absolute defense to defamation. Everything you said at that dinner is documented and provable. The hearing lasted 40 minutes. Brandon's attorney argued that Simone had maliciously destroyed his client's reputation out of spite for the divorce. Rebecca calmly presented documentation. Bank records showing the offshore transfers, communications between Brandon and Whitney, evidence of forged signatures. The judge, a stern woman in her 60s, listened to both sides then rendered her decision. Motion denied. Ms. Mitchell presented factual information with documentation. If Mr. Mitchell's reputation has suffered, it's due to his own actions, not defamation by his wife. She looked at Brandon's attorney. If there's nothing else, we're adjourned. Outside the courtroom, Brandon tried to approach Simone. His attorney held him back, but not before Simone heard him say, "This isn't over." "Actually, it is," Rebecca called back. "See you at the divorce hearing next month." That evening, Simone received an unexpected visitor. Robert Whitmore called and asked if he could stop by the loft. When she opened the door, he looked older than at the dinner, tired. "Thank you for seeing me," he said. "Of course. Please come in." They sat in the living room, Robert accepting the coffee she offered. "I owe you an apology," he said. "We should have noticed what Brandon was doing. The signs were there, irregular billing, unexplained absences, complaints from associates about inappropriate behavior. You weren't responsible for monitoring his personal life." "No, but we were responsible for the firm's ethical standards. We failed." Robert set down his coffee cup. "The firm is terminating Brandon's partnership. The investigation found multiple instances of misconduct, forged signatures, misappropriated funds, inappropriate relationships with subordinates." Simone felt a wave of satisfaction. What will happen to him? He'll be given the option to resign before we announce termination. Either way, he's out. And the Bar Association will likely suspend or revoke his license pending their own investigation. And Whitney? She resigned, as you know. We gave her a positive reference. She was a victim in this as much as you were. Robert leaned forward. I also wanted to ask if you'd consider taking on more consulting work with the firm. Not Brandon's cases, obviously. But we value your expertise, and I don't want his misconduct to affect our professional relationship. I appreciate that, Robert. I mean it. You're brilliant at what you do. Don't let Brandon's actions limit your opportunities. He stood. I'll let you go. I just wanted you to know the firm is taking this seriously. After he left, Simone sat alone in the quiet loft. Brandon's career was over. His license would be suspended or revoked. His reputation was destroyed. All because he'd been too arrogant to think he'd get caught. Her phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I hope you're happy. You've ruined my life. Brandon, from a new number. She blocked it and forwarded the message to Rebecca. Minutes later, Rebecca called. I'm filing for a restraining order. That text constitutes harassment. Is it necessary? Yes. He's unraveling. Desperate people are unpredictable. Rebecca's voice was firm. I want legal protection in place. The restraining order was granted within a week. Brandon was prohibited from contacting Simone directly, coming within 500 feet of her home or workplace, or communicating about her on social media. He violated it 3 days later, showing up at her office building drunk and demanding to see her. Security called the police. He spent the night in jail. At the bail hearing, the judge was not sympathetic. Mr. Mitchell, you're an attorney. You know what a restraining order means. You violated it anyway. The judge looked at the paperwork. Given your recent termination from your law firm, your pending bar investigation, and this violation, I'm setting bail at $50,000 and ordering you to attend substance abuse evaluation. Simone watched from the gallery as Brandon was led away. She felt no satisfaction, no pleasure in his suffering. Just a cold certainty that this was necessary. Rebecca joined her in the hallway. This actually helps us. Shows a pattern of poor judgment and instability. When we go to divorce court, the judge will see this. When is the hearing? 3 weeks. By then, the Bar Association should have preliminary findings. Rebecca's expression softened. How are you holding up? I'm fine. Better than fine, actually. Simone smiled. I got another consulting contract this week. A Fortune 500 company wants me to lead their restructuring project. That's amazing. It's one of the companies Brandon told them I was too unstable to work with. They called me directly after his termination made the news, apologized for believing him, and offered me the job. Rebecca laughed. Perfect. Karma is real. Over the next 3 weeks, Simone's life transformed. She took on high-profile consulting projects, her calendar filling with meetings and presentations. Her bank account grew. Her confidence solidified. And through it all, Brandon's world continued to collapse. The Bar Association suspended his license pending the outcome of their investigation. He moved back in with his parents, unable to afford his own place. Whitney stopped returning his calls, having moved to another city to start fresh. The divorce hearing arrived on a cold November morning. Simone dressed in her power suit, the burgundy one that made her look formidable. She met Rebecca outside the courtroom. Ready? Rebecca asked. Absolutely. The hearing lasted 4 hours. Rebecca presented evidence of Brandon's financial crimes, career sabotage, and misconduct. Brandon's new attorney, cheaper than the first one, tried to argue for equal division of assets, but the judge was unimpressed. Mr. Mitchell forged his wife's signature, moved marital assets without her knowledge, and systematically sabotaged her career. This court will not reward such behavior. The judge reviewed the documents. Ms. Mitchell is awarded the marital residence, 70% of all marital assets, and full reimbursement for all funds moved without her authorization. Mr. Mitchell will pay restitution of $135,000, plus Ms. Mitchell's legal fees. Brandon's face went gray. His attorney whispered urgently in his ear. Furthermore, the judge continued, given Mr. Mitchell's recent incarceration for violating a restraining order and his current unemployment, the court orders him to make monthly payments of $2,000 until the restitution is satisfied. Any violation of this order will result in contempt charges. The gavel fell. Simone walked out of the courtroom legally single and financially secure. Brandon owed her more than he could easily pay. His career was over. His reputation was ruined. Outside, the November air felt crisp and clean. Rebecca stood beside her, grinning. "We destroyed him," Rebecca said. "No," Simone corrected. "He destroyed himself. We just made sure the truth came out." Her phone buzzed. A text from Naomi: "I'm taking you to dinner to celebrate. Somewhere expensive. Brandon's paying." Simone laughed, a sound of genuine joy. For the first time in months, maybe years, she felt light. Free. The legal battle was over. The real journey was just beginning. 6 months after the divorce, Simone stood in her new office. Not a home office, but a proper corporate suite on the 20th floor of a glass tower downtown. Gold lettering on the door read, Mitchell Consulting Group. She'd used part of her divorce settlement to start her own firm. What began as a solo operation now employed 3 consultants, 2 analysts, and a full-time administrative assistant. They'd landed contracts with 5 major corporations, and Simone's calendar was booked solid for the next quarter. "Ms. Mitchell?" Her assistant, Rachel, appeared in the doorway. "The call with the Anderson Group starts in 5 minutes. "Thanks, Rachel." Simone gathered her notes, looking out her window at the city below. From here she could see the building that housed Whitmore, Stevens and Associates, Brandon's former firm. She'd heard through professional circles that he was working as a paralegal at a small firm across town, trying to rebuild his career with a suspended law license. His parents had paid off most of his restitution to avoid contempt charges. Whitney had moved to California and was apparently thriving at a new firm. Simone felt nothing when she heard these updates. Not satisfaction, not vindication. Just the mild interest you'd have in a stranger's life. The Anderson Group call went well. By the time it ended, Simone had secured a 6-month contract worth $200,000. She sent Naomi a celebratory text. Naomi's response was immediate. "Dinner tonight? I have news." They met at an upscale bistro, the kind of place that required reservations weeks in advance. Naomi arrived wearing a huge smile. "You're engaged," Simone said immediately. "How did you know? You're glowing. And you keep touching your ring finger even though you're not wearing the ring yet." Naomi laughed, pulling a small box from her purse. The diamond inside caught the light, sending rainbows across the table. "He proposed last night. I wanted you to be the first to know. I'm so happy for you." Simone hugged her friend. "Tell me everything." Over dinner, Naomi shared the proposal story, a weekend getaway, a sunset beach, the works. Simone listened, genuinely happy for her friend. And surprised to find she wasn't bitter or jealous. She'd loved Brandon once, but that love had been built on lies. What Naomi had was real. "I want you to be my maid of honor," Naomi said. "I'd be honored. And I was thinking, maybe it's time you started dating again too?" Simone considered this. 6 months ago the thought would have been laughable. But now, stable and successful, she felt ready to at least consider it. "Maybe," she said. "I know someone. Dominic Chin." "Wait, you said no Chin names." "That's fine. Chin is common enough that it's not associated with my ex. Dominic runs a tech startup. Smart, funny, successful. I met him through work." Naomi pulled out her phone, showing Simone a photo. A handsome black man with warm eyes and an easy smile looked back at her. "No pressure, but I think you two would hit it off." "Set it up," Simone said impulsively. "Just coffee, nothing intense." The coffee meeting happened the following week at a neutral location, a quiet cafe near Simone's office. Dominic arrived exactly on time, dressed professionally but not stuffy. "Simone." He extended his hand. "Dominic, Naomi's told me a lot about you. All good things, I hope. Mostly about how you're crushing it in the consulting world." He smiled. "I might need to hire you for my company's expansion." They talked for 2 hours. Dominic was intelligent without being arrogant, successful without being boastful. He asked questions about her work and actually listened to the answers. When he mentioned his company's challenges, he treated her insights with respect. "I should get back to work," Simone said eventually, checking her watch and surprised by how much time had passed. "This was great. Could we do it again? Maybe dinner next time?" "I'd like that." Walking back to her office, Simone felt lighter. Dominic was nothing like Brandon. He seemed genuine, interested in her as a person rather than as an accessory or asset. It was refreshing. Their second date was dinner at an Italian restaurant. Dominic talked about his background. Raised by a single mother, worked his way through college, started his tech company in his garage. He asked about Simone's consulting firm, her goals, her vision for growth. He didn't ask about her divorce. Naomi must have briefed him on the basics and warned him it wasn't dinner conversation. Simone appreciated that discretion. Can I ask you something? Dominic said over dessert. Of course. What made you want to start your own firm instead of joining an established company? Simone thought about the question. Control. After everything that happened, I needed to know I was building something that was mine. Something no one could take away or sabotage. That makes sense. Dominic's expression was understanding. I started my company for similar reasons. Tired of working for people who didn't value my contributions. Exactly. They discovered they had more in common than expected. Both were driven by independence rather than just money. Both valued honesty and direct communication. Both had been burned by people who underestimated them. I'd like to see you again, Dominic said when he walked her to her car. I'd like that too. Their relationship developed slowly, carefully. Simone was cautious, watching for red flags, testing boundaries. But Dominic was patient. He respected her space, her career, her independence. When she traveled for work, he sent supportive texts but didn't demand constant communication. When she canceled a date due to a work emergency, he understood without guilt-tripping. 3 months into dating, Dominic invited her to a charity gala his company was sponsoring. Simone wore a stunning emerald dress and let Dominic introduce her to his colleagues and business partners. Unlike Brandon, who'd always positioned himself as the star while she played supporting role, Dominic introduced her as his equal, a successful consultant with her own thriving business. Your girlfriend is impressive, one of Dominic's investors said. My company could use someone with her expertise. You should hire her, Dominic said with genuine pride. She's the best in the business. Later in the car ride home, Simone asked, why did you tell him to hire me? Weren't you worried about competing for my time? Why would I worry about that? Dominic looked genuinely confused. Your success doesn't threaten me. It's part of what makes you amazing. Simone felt something crack open in her chest. This was what partnership was supposed to feel like. Mutual support, not competition. Pride in each other's achievements, not jealousy. I really like you, she said quietly. Dominic smiled. I really like you too. Meanwhile, Mitchell Consulting Group continued to grow. Simone hired 2 more consultants and moved to a larger office suite. Her client list included some of the city's most prestigious companies. She was invited to speak at industry conferences, write articles for business publications, mentor young professionals. One afternoon, Rachel buzzed her office. Ms. Mitchell, there's a call for you. Brandon Mitchell. Should I take a message? Simone's first instinct was to refuse the call. But curiosity won. I'll take it. Brandon's voice sounded strained. Simone. Thank you for taking my call. What do you want, Brandon? I wanted to apologize. For everything. I know it's too late, but I needed you to hear it. Simone leaned back in her chair, looking out at the city. Okay. I heard it. I was a terrible husband. I sabotaged your career, stole from you, lied to you. I was controlling and manipulative and I took you for granted. His voice cracked. Losing you was the worst mistake of my life. You didn't lose me, Brandon. You threw me away. There's a difference. Silence. Then, I know. I've been working with a therapist, trying to understand why I did what I did. And I wanted you to know I'm sorry. Not because I want anything from you. Just because you deserve to hear it. Thank you for the apology. But it doesn't change anything. I know. He paused. I heard about your consulting firm. Congratulations. You always deserved better than what I gave you. After the call ended, Simone sat quietly for a moment. Brandon's apology felt genuine, but it didn't matter. Too much damage had been done, too many lies told. She'd built a new life and he had no place in it. That evening, she met Dominic for dinner. He took one look at her face and asked, hard day. Strange day. She told him about Brandon's call. How do you feel about it? Indifferent mostly. It was good to hear him admit what he did. But it doesn't change what happened or who he is. Simone took Dominic's hand. And honestly, I'm grateful it happened. If he hadn't revealed himself, I might still be in that marriage, still being held back. Now I have exactly the life I want. Dominic squeezed her hand. I'm glad too. Selfishly because I get to know you. But also because you deserve to be with someone who sees your worth. You see it? Every day. Simone felt tears prick her eyes, but they were good tears. Happy tears. She'd spent so long proving herself, fighting for recognition, that having someone simply see her value without argument felt almost overwhelming. I think I'm falling in love with you, she said. Dominic's smile lit up his whole face. Good. Because I'm already there. They kissed across the table, a moment of perfect happiness in a restaurant full of strangers. Simone felt something she hadn't felt in years. Hope. Not hope that someone would save her, she'd already saved herself. But hope that she could build something new with someone who valued her as much as she valued herself. The waiter brought their check. Simone reached for it, but Dominic was faster. "My turn," he said. "We could split it." "We could. Or I could treat my girlfriend to dinner." He grinned. "Equality doesn't mean keeping score. It means both of us giving what we can when we can." Simone smiled, letting him pay. He was right. Real partnership wasn't about rigid rules or control. It was about balance, trust, and mutual support. Everything her marriage to Brandon had never been. 1 year after Brandon's open marriage proposal, Simone woke in her bedroom, the loft she now owned outright, to sunlight streaming through windows she'd recently had enlarged. The space had been completely redecorated. Gone were Brandon's dark, heavy furniture and corporate art. In its place, bright, modern pieces that reflected Simone's taste, not compromise. Her phone buzzed with a morning text from Dominic. "Good luck with the presentation today. You're going to crush it." She smiled, typing back a heart emoji before getting ready for the day. Today she was presenting to the board of one of the country's largest retail chains. If she landed this contract, it would be Mitchell Consulting Group's biggest deal yet. Rachel had prepared all the materials yesterday. Simone's presentation was loaded on her laptop, her notes organized, her confidence solid. She dressed in a tailored navy suit, the one that made her feel invincible. The presentation went perfectly. The board asked sharp questions and Simone had sharper answers. By the time she finished, she could see the decision in their eyes. "Ms. Mitchell," the CEO said, "we'd like to move forward. When can you start?" "I'll have my team review the contract today. We could begin preliminary work next Monday." "Excellent." Outside the boardroom, Simone allowed herself a moment of celebration. A year ago, she'd been trapped in a dying marriage, her career deliberately sabotaged, her confidence eroded. Now she stood at the top of her field, respected and successful. She called Naomi from the car. "I got it," she said when her friend answered. "The retail contract? That's huge. This calls for celebration. Dinner tonight?" "Can't. I have plans with Dominic." "Ooh, anything special?" "He said he has something to talk about." Sounded serious. Serious good or serious bad? "I think good. He's been different lately. More nervous but in a sweet way." Naomi laughed. "Girl, he's going to propose." Simone's heart skipped. "You think?" "I know. He called me last week asking about rings. What you like, what style fits your personality." "And you told him?" "Simple, elegant, nothing ostentatious." "Was I right?" "Perfect." Simone felt excitement bubble up. "I should be scared. It hasn't been that long since the divorce. But it feels right, doesn't it?" It did. Dominic was nothing like Brandon. Their relationship was built on honesty, mutual respect, and genuine partnership. He celebrated her success instead of resenting it. He supported her independence instead of trying to control it. "Yeah," Simone said softly. "It feels right." That evening, Dominic picked her up for what he claimed was just dinner. But he was wearing his best suit, and he drove them to the Pinnacle, the city's most exclusive restaurant perched on the 50th floor of a skyscraper. "This is fancy for just dinner?" Simone teased. "You landed a massive contract today. That's worth celebrating properly." Over dinner, they talked about her presentation, his company's upcoming product launch, Naomi's wedding planning. But Simone could sense Dominic's nervousness growing. Finally, over dessert, he reached across the table and took her hand. "Simone, I need to tell you something." "Okay." "When Naomi first suggested I meet you, I almost said no. I'd just gone through my own terrible breakup and I wasn't ready to date. But she was persistent, so I agreed to coffee." He smiled. "Best decision I ever made." Simone's heart raced. "This year with you has been incredible. You're smart, driven, independent. You challenge me to be better. You make me laugh. You understand the demands of building a business because you're doing the same thing." Dominic stood, moving to her side of the table. People at nearby tables began to notice. "You've been through hell and you came out stronger. You rebuilt your life, your career, your confidence. You're the most impressive person I know." He pulled a small box from his pocket and opened it. Inside was a platinum ring with a single perfect diamond, elegant and understated. Exactly her style. "Simone Mitchell, will you marry me? Not because you need someone to save you, you saved yourself. But because I want to be your partner in building an even better future." Tears filled Simone's eyes. A year ago marriage felt like a trap. But this was different. This was choosing partnership from strength, not need. Yes, she said. Yes, I'll marry you. The restaurant erupted in applause as Dominic slipped the ring on her finger and kissed her. Simone laughed through happy tears, overwhelmed by joy. This was what she deserved. Not a husband who diminished her, but a partner who elevated her. Not control disguised as love, but genuine respect and support. They drove to Naomi's apartment afterward to share the news. Her friend opened the door, took one look at Simone's hand and screamed. I knew it. I knew he was proposing tonight. You helped him pick the ring, Simone accused, laughing. Guilty. But look how perfect it is. They celebrated with champagne, the good kind, not the manipulative kind Brandon had used. Dominic and Naomi's fiancé talked business while Naomi dragged Simone to the bedroom to examine the ring properly. You deserve this, Naomi said seriously. After everything Brandon put you through, you deserve someone who sees your value. I know. Simone twisted the ring, watching it catch the light. It's weird. I thought I'd be scared. But I'm not. Because Dominic is nothing like Brandon. Exactly. He wants me to succeed. He celebrates my wins. He doesn't see my career as competition. Simone met her friend's eyes. This is what partnership is supposed to feel like. Yes, it is. The next day, Simone called her mother to share the news. Her mother had never liked Brandon, had always thought Simone deserved better. I'm so happy for you, baby, her mother said, her voice warm. Dominic sounds wonderful. Yes, Mom. He's everything Brandon wasn't. Good. That man never deserved you. Her mother paused. Have you thought about when you want to get married? Not yet. We just got engaged yesterday. Well, whenever it is, I'm so proud of you. Not just for finding love again, but for everything you've built. Your business, your success. You did that all yourself. After the call, Simone sat in her office looking at the ring on her finger. Her mother was right. She had built this life herself. The business, the success, the happiness, all of it came from her own strength and determination. Dominic was a wonderful addition to that life, but he wasn't the foundation. She was. Mitchell Consulting Group continued to grow. The retail contract led to others. Within 6 months, Simone employed 12 people and was considering expanding to a second office in another city. She occasionally heard updates about Brandon through professional networks. He'd never regained his law license. He'd remarried, quickly and quietly, to someone who worked in a completely different field. Simone wished him no ill will, but she felt nothing when she heard these updates. He was simply part of her past, a chapter that taught her important lessons but held no power over her present. Whitney had apparently thrived in California, making partner at her new firm. Simone was genuinely happy for her. Whitney had been a victim too in her own way. The final piece of closure came unexpectedly. A check arrived in the mail, the last of Brandon's restitution payments. $135,000 paid in full. Simone deposited the check and used the money to invest in Mitchell Consulting Group's expansion. Brandon's theft had ultimately funded her independence. There was a certain poetry in that. That evening, she and Dominic walked through the park near her loft. Fall leaves crunched under their feet, the air crisp and clean. I heard from the real estate agent today, Dominic said. They found a house that might work for us. 5 bedrooms, home offices for both of us, great neighborhood. They decided to buy a new place together instead of either moving into the other's home. A fresh start for both of them. When can we see it? Tomorrow if you're free. I'll make time. They walked in comfortable silence, hands linked. Simone thought about the journey that had brought her here. The betrayal, the pain, the anger. But also the strength, the growth, the triumph. Brandon had asked for an open marriage and thought he held all the cards. Instead, he'd freed her to become the woman she was always meant to be. Simone looked at the ring on her finger, then at Dominic's profile in the fading light. This was her life now. Success, love, partnership, respect. Everything she deserved and nothing she hadn't earned herself. I love you, she said. Dominic smiled, pulling her close. I love you too. The past was past. The future was bright. And Simone was exactly where she was meant to be. 18 months after Brandon's catastrophic proposal, Simone stood in the conference room of Mitchell Consulting Group's new headquarters. The space occupied an entire floor of a downtown high-rise, with glass walls offering panoramic city views. 20 employees now worked under her leadership, and the company had just been named one of the fastest-growing consulting firms in the region. A journalist from Business Weekly sat across from her, recording their conversation for a feature article titled Rising Stars: Entrepreneurs Who Built Success from Adversity. What would you say was the turning point? The journalist asked. Simone thought carefully. The moment I realized I was stronger than I thought. That I didn't need someone else's permission or approval to succeed. I just needed to trust myself. You went through a difficult divorce during this time, correct? I did. And it taught me that sometimes the worst things that happen to us lead to the best outcomes. That divorce freed me to build exactly the life I wanted. The journalist made notes. Your ex-husband was an attorney who lost his license. Some might say you destroyed his career. He destroyed his own career through his choices. I simply made sure the truth came out. Simone's voice was calm, factual. Accountability isn't destruction. It's consequence. After the interview, Simone reviewed the company's quarterly reports. Revenue was up 40% from the previous quarter. Client retention was at 95%. Employee satisfaction scores were excellent. Her phone buzzed. A text from Dominic: "House closing is confirmed for next week. Ready to be a homeowner with me?" She typed back, "More than ready." They were buying a beautiful colonial in a neighborhood full of families and professionals. The house had everything they wanted: space for home offices, a garden, room to grow. Simone had paid cash for her half from her business profits. Equal partnership in everything. That evening she attended a networking event at one of the city's premier venues. As a featured speaker on business growth strategies, Simone had become a regular on the professional circuit. People sought her advice, wanted to work with her, respected her expertise. Midway through the cocktail hour, she noticed a familiar face across the room. Brandon. He looked older, worn. His suit was off the rack instead of custom. He stood alone, not engaging with the other attendees. Their eyes met. Brandon's expression showed shock, then something like shame. He started to approach, but Simone turned away, continuing her conversation with a potential client. She had nothing to say to him. Later, as she was leaving, Brandon intercepted her in the lobby. "Simone. Please, just a moment." She considered walking past him but stopped. "What do you want, Brandon?" "I saw your interview in Business Weekly. Congratulations on your success." "Thank you. I wanted you to know I'm doing better. I'm working steady, going to therapy, trying to make amends for the damage I caused." He looked down. "I know I can never undo what I did. But I'm trying to be a better person." "That's good, Brandon. I hope you succeed." Do you hate me?" Simone considered the question honestly. "No. I don't hate you. I don't really feel anything about you at all. You're part of my past and I've moved on." "I heard you're engaged. To someone who actually deserves you." "Yes, I am." "I'm glad. You deserve to be happy." Brandon's voice cracked slightly. "I was a terrible husband. I held you back, lied to you, tried to control you." "I'm sorry." "I know. You've apologized before." Simone checked her watch. "I need to go. I have dinner plans." "Of course. I wanted you to know that seeing what you've built, how successful you've become, it makes me realize how badly I screwed up. You're thriving without me. More than thriving. And I'm proud of you, even though I have no right to be. Goodbye, Brandon." She walked away without looking back. Behind her, she heard him say quietly, "Goodbye, Simone." In her car, Simone sat for a moment before starting the engine. Brandon's words had been genuine, she thought. He truly realized the magnitude of his mistakes. But his realization didn't change anything. It didn't undo the betrayal, the theft, the sabotage. And more importantly, she didn't need his apology or acknowledgement to feel complete. She'd already moved past him. Dominic was waiting at the restaurant when she arrived. He stood when he saw her, pulling out her chair, not because she couldn't do it herself, but as a gesture of respect and care. "How was the networking event?" he asked. "Productive. Picked up 2 potential leads." She decided not to mention Brandon. There was no point. "How was your day?" "Good. The product launch went better than expected. We're already getting orders." Dominic smiled. "I was thinking, for the honeymoon, what about Italy? You mentioned wanting to go." "Italy sounds perfect." They'd set their wedding date for early summer, 6 months away. Nothing huge or showy, just close friends and family. Naomi would be maid of honor. Dominic's best friend from college would be best man. Unlike her first wedding, the expensive, elaborate affair Brandon had insisted on, this one would be intimate and meaningful. A celebration of partnership, not performance. "I got the final restitution payment from Brandon last month," Simone said. "I was thinking of using it to fund a scholarship program through the company." 4 women trying to restart their careers after divorce or other setbacks. Dominic's expression warmed. That's a beautiful idea. Using what he took from you to help others. Exactly. Turn something negative into something positive. Over dinner they discussed the scholarship program details. How to structure it, what criteria to use, how to make the biggest impact. Dominic offered to have his company match the funding, doubling the number of women they could help. This was partnership, Simone thought. Building something together, supporting each other's visions, making each other's goals possible. A week later, Business Weekly published the feature article. Simone's photo, professional, confident, successful, graced the cover with the headline, "From Betrayal to Breakthrough, How Simone Mitchell Built an Empire." The article detailed her journey from divorce to business success without naming Brandon. It focused on her resilience, her strategic thinking, her commitment to helping other businesses succeed. It positioned her as a leader in her field. Simone's phone exploded with messages. Congratulations from colleagues, requests for interviews, invitations to speak at conferences. Her business benefited too. 3 new clients reached out directly, citing the article. That afternoon Jordan Hayes called. Saw the article. "You look amazing," Jordan said. "I wanted to give you an update on Brandon." "Is that necessary?" "Probably not, but I thought you'd want to know. His new marriage is apparently struggling. His wife is unhappy with his income level and his baggage. She didn't know the full story when they got married. That's unfortunate for both of them. Also, the woman you replaced at that consulting job you interviewed for? She quit after 6 months. The company called me asking if you'd be interested in coming on as a contractor." Simone smiled. "Forward them to my business line. We might be able to work something out." "Will do. And Simone, I'm proud of you. You took a terrible situation and turned it into triumph." After the call ended, Simone stood at her office window looking out at the city. From this height she could see for miles. The building that housed Brandon's old firm. The courthouse where she'd won her divorce. The restaurant where she'd first met Dominic. All of it part of her story, but none of it defining her. She defined herself through her choices, her strength, her refusal to let betrayal destroy her. Her assistant knocked. "Ms. Mitchell? Your 3 o'clock is here." "Thank you, Rachel. I'll be right there." Simone gathered her materials for the meeting. Another potential client, another opportunity to grow her business. Her life was full of such opportunities now, and she seized every one. That evening she and Dominic toured the house they'd be moving into next week. Empty rooms echoed with possibility. They planned where furniture would go, which room would be whose office, where they'd plant a garden. "This is going to be amazing," Dominic said, pulling her close in what would be their future living room. "It is." Simone leaned into his embrace. "Everything is amazing." And it was. Her business thrived. Her relationship was built on respect and honesty. Her future stretched ahead, full of promise. Brandon had thought asking for an open marriage would get him everything he wanted. Instead, it had freed Simone to build everything she deserved all along. The best revenge she'd learned wasn't destruction. It was success. Complete, undeniable, self-made success. And she'd achieved it spectacularly. 2 years after Brandon's proposal shattered her world, Simone stood in the executive suite of Mitchell Consulting Group's headquarters, looking at the plaque that had just been mounted on her wall, Chamber of Commerce Business of the Year. Her company now employed 35 people across 2 cities. Annual revenue had crossed the $7 million mark. She'd been featured in 3 major business publications and had delivered keynote speeches at industry conferences across the country. But the achievement she was most proud of wasn't a financial metric. It was the scholarship program she'd created, the New Beginnings Fund, that had helped 23 women rebuild their careers and their lives after divorce or other major setbacks. "Ms. Mitchell?" Rachel appeared in the doorway. "Your 2 o'clock is here." Simone checked her schedule. "Right? The interview with a documentary filmmaker creating a series about successful entrepreneurs." She smoothed her jacket and headed to the conference room. The filmmaker, a woman named Tasha, had set up cameras and lighting. "Thank you for agreeing to this," she said. "Your story is exactly what we're looking for, triumph over adversity. What do you want to know?" "Start with the beginning. What was the moment that changed everything?" Simone thought back to that night 2 years ago. The champagne, the shock, the betrayal. But also the clarity that had come with it. "My husband asked for an open marriage," she said. "He'd been cheating for months and wanted permission to continue. In that moment, I had a choice. Accept his terms and stay in a broken marriage or fight for something better. You chose to fight. I chose myself. I chose to believe I deserved better than what he was offering. And that choice led to everything else. The interview lasted 2 hours. Simone talked about building her business, learning to trust again, finding real partnership with Dominic. She talked about the scholarship fund and the women she'd helped. She talked about transforming pain into purpose. What would you say to other women going through similar situations? Tasha asked. That you're stronger than you think. That betrayal doesn't define you, how you respond to it does. And that sometimes the worst thing that happens to you becomes the catalyst for the best thing that could happen. After Tasha left, Simone had 30 minutes before her next meeting. She used the time to review applications for the scholarship fund's next round. Each application told a story of struggle and determination. Each woman was fighting to rebuild. Simone selected 5 finalists and forwarded them to the selection committee. These women would each receive $50,000 in support, tuition assistance, career training, business startup capital, whatever they needed to move forward. Her phone buzzed. A text from Dominic. Running late for dinner. Wedding planner crisis. Be there in 20. They were getting married in 3 months, a summer wedding at a vineyard outside the city. 50 guests, simple ceremony, celebration focused on love and partnership rather than performance. Simone's mother had flown in last week to help with planning. She'd walked through the loft, soon to be sold as Simone and Dominic were already living in their new house, and had said, "I'm so glad you got rid of all his darkness. This space is finally you." That evening, at dinner with Dominic and the wedding planner, Simone felt a sense of peace she'd never experienced in her first marriage. There was no tension, no unspoken resentment, no feeling that she had to diminish herself to make space for someone else's ego. "What do you think about the flower arrangements?" the wedding planner asked, showing photos. "I love them. But let's make sure they're not too expensive. I'd rather donate that money to the scholarship fund." Dominic smiled. "One of the many reasons I love you." The wedding planner made notes. "We can work with that. I'll find something beautiful but budget conscious." After the planner left, Simone and Dominic walked through their neighborhood. Children played in yards. Couples walked dogs. It was peaceful, normal, exactly the kind of life Simone had once thought she had with Brandon. But this was real. This was built on truth, not lies. "I got an interesting call today," Dominic said. "Brandon's new business venture failed. He's apparently filing for bankruptcy." Simone felt a flicker of something. Not satisfaction, not even sympathy. Just acknowledgement. "That's unfortunate. You don't feel vindicated?" "No. His failures aren't my victory. My success is my victory." Dominic pulled her close. "You're remarkable, you know that? I'm just someone who refused to let betrayal define her." That night, lying in bed in the house they'd made their home, Simone reflected on the journey. 2 years ago, she'd been devastated, humiliated, angry. Now she was successful, loved, content. Brandon had thought asking for an open marriage was clever strategy. He'd calculated wrong, assuming Simone would accept his terms. He'd underestimated her strength, her intelligence, her unwillingness to settle. And in underestimating her, he'd lost everything. His wife, his career, his reputation, his comfortable life. All because he couldn't see the value of what he had. Simone's phone lit up with an email notification. The Chamber of Commerce, congratulating her again on the award and inviting her to speak at their annual conference. She accepted the invitation, already planning her speech. She'd talk about resilience, about turning setbacks into comebacks, about the power of betting on yourself when no one else will. 3 months later, Simone stood in a vineyard overlooking rolling hills and endless sky. The summer sun warmed her shoulders as she held Dominic's hands and recited her vows. "I promise to be your partner in all things," she said. "To support your dreams as you support mine. To build a life based on honesty, respect, and genuine love." Dominic's voice was thick with emotion as he responded. "I promise to never make you smaller to make myself bigger. To celebrate your success as my own. To choose you every day because you're worth choosing." When the officiant pronounced them married, Simone kissed her husband and felt a completeness she'd never known before. This was what marriage was supposed to be, 2 whole people choosing to build together, not one person trying to control the other. At the reception, Naomi gave a toast that made everyone laugh and cry. Simone's mother talked about watching her daughter transform pain into power. Dominic's best friend told embarrassing stories that made Dominic groan. Later, during the dancing, Simone looked around at the people celebrating with them. Friends who'd supported her through the divorce. Colleagues who respected her work. Family who loved her unconditionally. No one from Brandon's side of the family was there. They'd sent perfunctory well wishes but hadn't attended. Simone was fine with that. They'd chosen their loyalty long ago. Happy? Dominic whispered as they swayed to the music. Completely. Any regrets? Simone thought about the question seriously. Did she regret her first marriage? The wasted years? The betrayal? No, she said finally. Because all of it led me here. To this business, this life, you. I wouldn't be who I am without that journey. Even the painful parts? Especially the painful parts. They taught me what I was capable of. As the evening faded into night and the celebration continued, Simone stepped outside for a moment alone. Stars filled the sky, countless and brilliant. 2 years ago, standing in her loft while Brandon poured champagne and proposed his arrangement, Simone would never have imagined this moment. This happiness, this success, this peace. Brandon had been her worst nightmare for a moment. The betrayal had felt devastating, world-ending. But she'd survived. She'd rebuilt. She'd thrived. And in doing so, she'd become his worst nightmare instead. Not through revenge or destruction, but through success so complete and undeniable that it highlighted everything he'd thrown away. She'd heard through mutual acquaintances that Brandon sometimes saw her business success mentioned in trade publications. That he knew about her consulting firm, her awards, her happiness. And knowing that knowledge probably haunted him brought Simone no particular pleasure. She didn't need his regret to feel complete. She didn't need his acknowledgement to know her worth. She'd learned it herself the hard way. Dominic stepped outside. Everyone's asking for the bride. Ready to go back in? Absolutely. They returned to the celebration hand in hand. The rest of the evening blurred into joy, dancing, laughter, toasts, cake, promises of forever. As the night ended and they drove away to begin their honeymoon, Simone looked back at the vineyard one last time. Behind her was everything she'd built from the ashes of her old life. Ahead was everything she'd continue to build with someone who truly valued her. Brandon had asked for an open marriage thinking he held all the power. Instead, he'd freed Simone to discover her own. And she'd used that power to build a life far better than anything he could have imagined. That wasn't revenge. That was victory. Complete, total, undeniable victory. And it tasted like champagne and starlight and infinite possibility.